Welcome to another Roaring Records tutorial. This is part 2 of a tutorial called Creating Interest with Rhythms. I hope you're excited about learning more this time about drum fills. So again, we are going to be using SoundTrap. You may recognize this little song. We just used it in part 1, which was creating stop time. So it kind of sounds like this if you didn't hear it. Okay, so there's the idea. This time we want to do rhythmic introductions using drum fills. And drum fills were wildly popular in 70s to 80s rock music. But the idea of a drum fill is still something that's very effective even in electronic and dubstep music today. It breaks up the rhythmic repetitiveness that often occurs in music and provides the listener a quick cue to know that something important is coming. So the first thing I want to do is add a drum fill here that leads in to this entrance of the saxophone. It's a big new idea. It's something we want to do. So I'm going to double click right here. And now I'm going to slide over to the end of measure 4. So measure 4 is labeled here. Measure 5 is here. 5 is where the saxophone comes in. So I want to look at the end of measure 4. Well, in my pattern tool, all I have access to initially is kick, snare, and hat. So I'm going to add 3 more instruments by hitting that button. And I'm going to change them to be high tom, mid tom, low tom, and I'm going to actually add one more. This time, let's do a crash cymbal. So I'm mainly going to focus on measure 4 because we're keeping time through here to get the idea started, but here's where the transition actually happens. So I'm going to work on the end of measure 4, and I'm going to work through my toms first. So I've just added a few different tom hits here. I'm actually going to do this. And add a crash cymbal here and here. Let's see what that sounds like now if we start in measure 4. So I've got this short drum solo, for lack of a better term, and this drum solo now leads us into the saxophone part. We could even add a little bit more to the beginning of it if we wanted to. Here we go. Let's try this now. So there we go. We've got now a drum fill that leads us into that filling of the saxophone. That's a full measure drum fill. We could come now to the measure 8 point if we wanted to and add another small drum fill. I probably wouldn't add as large of a drum fill at measure 8 because it's kind of the middle of the phrase, but it could still get a few tom hits in there. So here we start at measure 7. So a nice subtle drum fill there to add in. And then there's one more way that we could go about adding a drum fill, and that's here in the piano roll. So if we kind of take a look here, we've got a low tom happening on the A key, and then D flat's a high tom, C is a mid tom, and we've got our crash cymbals down here below the line. So we could actually use our piano roll. Let's see if we can create some extra notes leading into this ending here. So I'm going to switch from my pointer tool to my pencil tool to allow me to draw notes. So I'm going to draw in some, that would be a cymbal. To move this note, I had to go to my pointer tool to move it. There we go. So there's the high tom note. We'll go dee-dee-dum, dee-dee-dum. And now some crash cymbals. Okay, and for good measure, we're going to add some notes in here to the ending to match the rhythm. So we're going to come back and play from measure 10 and hear this big conclusionary drum fill. Yeah, so now we've got a drum fill that really leads us into the ending and makes us feel really strong about what we're doing. So there's two methods there. You could either use the pattern tool or the piano roll. Note that as I made these simple drum fills, I didn't alter the regular groove of the drum pattern at all. Thankfully, you don't have to, because, you know, you're a MIDI drummer and you can do whatever you want to. So as a beginner, I wouldn't alter the regular drum beat. I would just add to it. Maybe as you get more experience, you can alter the original drum beat and allow the new notes to carry the rhythm. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, feel free to hit the subscribe button below.